press the bell icon and hit the subscribe button for more Filmy Show Me updates.
Saiyami, it's wonderful to be connected with you after so many years. I think the last time we probably spoke and even met each other was during Mirzia. So it's wonderful to see you.
I know it's been a really long time, and the last time we met was in London, and unfortunately now we are meeting on Zoom via because of the lockdown. But it's very exciting to see you, hear you again.
Likewise, the pleasure is all mine, Saiyami. So how has lockdown been going for you? What have you been up to?
No one really expected this because, we all had, there's this very famous quote of, "We're so busy making our own plans and God is sitting and laughing at them." Because, I had a whole thing lined up where I was going to be in Netherlands in June. I was shooting for a Telugu film with Nagarjuna sir, and
Wow.
we were supposed to be in Thailand shooting for the film. So we had everything lined up, and then suddenly this was sprung at us. So fortunately, I've come to Nasik to my parents' house, and thankfully, I have place around the house. So I've been keeping up with my exercise because I was training for an Ironman,
Okay.
and so
Wow.
I've fortunately had the place to kind of keep up with my exercise. I've been doing like script and play readings with a few friends, so you're just in touch with your craft in a way. I've been and now I have a film with Anurag releasing called Choke, so I'm very excited for that. So we're kind of trying to push that out as much as we can.
Yes, and I'm really glad you mentioned that actually, because that looks like a very interesting film. I think it would be also right to say that I think your the upcoming Netflix original film will kind of see you in a maturer light than what we've seen you in before. So what was the preparation process like for you? Because
So I actually post Mirzia, I did a few things, but there
yeah.
was nothing very exciting that came my way post the film because it unfortunately didn't make the money that people expected it to make. But Anurag sir's film, I was watching a film at Mami, and I happened to be sitting next to him, and he said, "Will you do a film?" So I said, "Yeah, I'm an actor. That's what I want to do." And he sent me the script, and he sent the script to me actually almost 3 years ago. And as soon as I read it, I said, I'm on for the film. And then he kept saying, "Ha, we'll do it, we'll do it, we'll do it." And then like it was 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and we never did it. And last year I was on holiday in Greece, and Anurag sir, I had a slight idea because I used to kind of just from all sources kind of find out what's happening on the film. So I physically put on 10 kilos for the film because I felt that it's a character older than my age, and I wanted to kind of make it look authentic. So I put on 12 kilos for the film.
Wow.
And I knew he wanted to start the film sometime in May, June. And he randomly called me saying, "When are you back from your holiday?" So I said on the 15th. Then he said, "Okay, we'll shoot 2 days after that." So literally, besides just putting on weight for the film, I think it was somewhere he maybe just saw the character in me and he trusted me with it. And his way of working is very, very different. So he said that he's someone who doesn't believe in prep at all. And that's something very different from how Rakesh sir's way of working was, because we had a lot of prep with Rakesh sir. So it was a very different kind of experience, but it's been a big, big learning curve.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra and Anurag Kashyap are completely different schools of filmmaking.
Absolutely.
I think they're completely like North Pole, South Pole. I think just to kind of put it out there, and adapting to Anurag Kashyap's vision as well at times, because his films do have a very certain bleakness and darkness to them. So it must have been quite a challenge to sort of live up to his vision as well, right?
So every time I've actually worked with someone, I kind of just surrender to what their vision is, what their way is, because I think the quicker an actor surrenders to the director, it's easier to work together because they have a certain way of working. So I was actually so paranoid with Anurag sir because we didn't even have a script in hand. Like, I didn't know what scene we were doing tomorrow or what. There was no plan because he's somebody who's so spontaneous. And he said that you know the character, you know what the story is. Why do you need to know the lines? As long as you know what's happening in the scene, you just be the character and you improvise what you want to. So with him, it was so different from Rakesh sir. Where Rakesh sir, we had like 6 months of readings and rehearsals and stuff. And Anurag sir was almost like, he said that just, go by your instinct, go by my instinct, and let's just see what we can make. So his style is extremely different, which is why it was such a big learning curve for me. And the first 1-2 days, I was just like, I hope this is going all right, because we didn't know how it was going. But working with him is like working with, we see the very dark and intense side of Anurag Kashyap in his films, and also like just the image that he has. But he, in fact, is like a 14-year-old kid on set. And he's so full of energy, and he's so funny, and he's completely opposite to what his image is in the public eye. So it was a pleasant change, even learning that.
Yeah, that is incredible. But I think what's also incredible is the fact that you've actually forayed onto the OTT platform as well, and as we've seen, it's been a huge blessing, especially given the current situation, given the fact that it's lockdown and the coronavirus outbreak. So how much of a blessing has it actually been for you, though, personally? Because obviously it's almost like giving you an extra platform as well. If God forbid, if cinema sort of has its moments and it doesn't work out as planned, then it needs to have this platform. So how much of a blessing has it been for you?
See, the truth is that lockdown happened. I mean, it happened, it's been 3 months, but I already had done a show with Hotstar, which released in March, which was directed by Neeraj Pandey.
Special Ops.
And Special Ops, yes. So I had a little role in this season, but again, he's a filmmaker that I wanted to work with. And the next season I know is an exciting bit for me. So I actually had already kind of made my digital debut with that show. And I think the timing just worked that Corona happened and, everyone's been sitting at home and kind of binge watching shows that are out there. But I definitely feel it is the future because with the virus now, we don't know how and when cinemas, theaters are going to be completely normal like they used to be. And with the business angle, with how much money that we've lost, I don't know how many makers will be kind of backing big budget films and all the commercials that get involved in it. I'm not very good with the commercials, but I do know that OTT has opened up so many avenues for so many people, because it's not driven by stardom, it's not driven by whose son and daughter you are, it's not driven by the quintessential norms of Bollywood, and it's driven by content, and if you fit the part, you do the part. So it's driven by probably how things should be. And
exactly.
I'm really glad because I had Special Ops on Hotstar that came out in March. I have Choked with Anurag sir, which comes out in June. And then I have Breathe 2 that I've done with Amazon, which also should be out, I think, in the next 2-3 months.
Nice.
So
that's interesting. Because Breathe 2, I believe, stars Abhishek Bachchan in the lead, right? I believe he's also in the picture. Wow, that is interesting. I think I've just started season 1, and it's very interesting. I must say, I'm actually really loving it. I think it's very interesting.
I'd watched season 1 when it had come out, and I thought it was a really well-made show. And it wasn't even in the periphery of season 2 will happen and they'll audition. I just watched the show and really liked it. And again with Breathe, when the time is right, we'll speak. But it's again a very, very different role from Special Ops was a raw agent and, doing badass stuff. Choked is a middle class 31-year-old lady. And Breathe is something which is completely different. So I'm just glad that, in 1 year I'm getting to kind of have this range of 3 very different characters. So I'm pretty excited about that.
No, definitely. But I think I want to sort of talk a bit more about when we last sort of met, because I think obviously Mirza, like you mentioned, didn't do commercially as well as one would have expected. I mean, how disappointed were you with that? I mean, obviously, because you must have had some idea or some sort of imagination of how your career would have worked out, right? So, how disappointed were you with it?
So, the truth is that I'm not an industry kid. So I've grown up in Nasik, surrounded by sport, which is still a very important part of my life. So when I did the film, I had said this even before the release, is that it was a huge learning curve for me, because I had gotten to interact with Gulzar Saab. I spent so much time with Rakesh sir, Shankar Hassan Loy, Art Malik, and there were so many senior actors who taught me so much. And more than that, it was a film that we spent a lot of time on. So we spent almost a year and a half of our life on it. And I kind of became really close to the entire cast and crew. And the whole process of shoot, I had so much fun. Like, when we were shooting in Ladakh, when we were shooting. So by the time the film released, it had become like it was a part of my family. Rakesh sir was a part of my family. And I had enjoyed so much and learned so much that when the film actually released and it didn't do well, I looked at it almost like, okay, it's not done well, but it's given me so much, it's given me so much, and I've had such a good time with it. And I was not really as badly affected as Harsh was, because Harsh probably knew how the industry works and then how people change when you don't have commercial success. I didn't know that because I was still an outsider to this place. So I didn't realize how much it's going to make a difference up until a year after release, because I was kind of locked for 2-3 Hindi films, which by leading production houses and stuff like that. And because the film didn't do well, those films, I was replaced by people. And it kind of started hitting me almost a year later that commercial success really, really matters. Because they had selected me on the basis of an audition before Mirzia. And clearly things changed post the commercial success of the film. And that's when I realized that, okay, making money on a film matters. And that's when I realized that I was a little disappointed. But I carried on. I went ahead and, did stuff that came my way. I was lucky enough. I got offered a Marathi film, which was a very, very big Marathi film. Again, a very commercial, typically
film.
Commercial film. Yes.
Yeah.
So it was a commercial Marathi film, but again, a great experience because it was opposite Ritesh Deshmukh, and it was a franchise of a very famous film called Lai Bhari. So that was great fun. And just when that happened, I signed on Breathe, and then I just fortunately kept getting stuff which was interesting. Definitely not. I was not offered stuff which I would have thought I would have been offered, but I did get a few interesting things which I kind of jumped onto.
Yeah, and I think like obviously sometimes, like you mentioned, projects don't go as planned as well, because obviously things change. I mean, I think this is the biggest thing that we've learned from the pandemic, is that you can never really plan for anything in life. But obviously, I mean, I believe as well, when we did our first phone interview as well, we sort of spoke about how you were supposed to do a Mani Ratnam film, but due to some certain matters around the film, it didn't work out and stuff. When these things happen, when things don't go as expected, it must take a toll on you as well and your sort of mental health. How did you overcome that process? How did you overcome that disappointment and sort of gather strength again to become that strong Saiyami Kher and sort of seize the world again?
So, I just mentioned to you that I come from a sporting background, and very honestly, that's what has kept me sane. I've started running marathons, and I've done like a couple of full marathons. I'm training for an Ironman, and I really do believe, besides just it helping you physically, I think sport really keeps you very, very positive mentally. So sport was one way that kept me sane, and probably has just an upbringing that I've had has been to kind of be a fighter because of playing competitive sport. Having said that, it's definitely been it's been very difficult because it's such an insecure place to be, and you actually kind of realize who your true friends are, who your true supporters are when you don't have success. And that's when I kind of to call this as a blessing, because I found out who my friends were just because I'd signed a big Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra film, and then who my friends were when the film didn't work. So that kind of gives you judgment for life with regards to who you should take seriously in life. So it teaches you a lot of life lessons, and I fortunately have only taken the best out of failure so far. And somewhere I feel it's been a redeeming factor when like a Mani Ratnam signed me on for the film, and then the film didn't happen. He called me for an audition for his next film, but he felt I was looking too young for it. He's still been in touch with me, so clearly probably felt that I could act a little bit. And then be it Neeraj Pandey getting me on for his project, or then Anurag signing me on for his project, somewhere that confidence, when it was backed by such big names, it kind of kept me going, saying, all right, I'm not, completely terrible. And I have hope. So I kind of worked on myself, kept doing my theatre workshops with Adil Hussain, who's somebody who I keep going and falling at. So I've continued doing that.
Wow. I think that's incredible as well. But for someone who, I think for advice, I think for people who, especially in this lockdown, especially even post-lockdown as well, but just a general word of advice for people who might not come from a sporting background, or who might not be, who might just take them a process to sort of gather that strength from within. What would you say to those people to sort of stand up on their feet? Because I think it's very difficult, because sometimes to even get to that stage where you do gather strength and come to that realization itself is a process. So what advice would you give to those people?
The only advice I'd like to give people who are not necessarily only pursuing acting, but pursuing something that they like doing.
Exactly.
When you're pursuing something you like doing and you don't get the so-called success in it, I don't personally believe that box office hits and failures is what success is to me. So firstly, define what success is to you all. And if you don't get that the so-called success, you are probably chasing the wrong things. Because if you are here to be an actor, then you need to love your craft. So even if it means, doing a play in Prithvi, doing a play with a good theatre group, you are kind of honing your craft. So if you are there for the right reasons, eventually over time you will, find the success you're looking for. So I feel, sit yourself down, define what it is that actually makes you happy and what it is that you really want. So when you say, I want to be an actor, doesn't mean you have to become Amir Khan and Shah Rukh Khan and, become a superstar.
Yeah.
Chasing stardom and chasing acting are two very different things.
So true.
So I guess first and foremost, we should define what we want and chase the right things, I feel. And success.
Yeah, no, that is so spot on. And I think this is what's happened. I think over time, because I think a lot of us sort of used to see Bollywood for the large, opulent cinema that it was. I think to some extent that whole ideology of what acting and what's fame, I think it's all kind of mixed up a little bit over the years. And only now we've tried to kind of break that down a little bit. And I'm really glad you mentioned that. But I think from the set go, though, you seem to have been very clear on what you wanted to achieve in the industry. So I'm guessing you always wanted, I'm guessing even though you have a sports background, I'm guessing you've always wanted to kind of pursue the field of acting, right?
Actually, not really. My family and friends were very, very surprised that I took up acting, because that was the remotest thing as a child. I was so completely engrossed in sport, and it went on till I was probably 17 years old. And I was studying in Xavier's in Bombay, and I kind of just started doing theatre so I could bunk classes. And that's when I was bitten by the acting bug. And once you're bitten by the bug, then it's a little difficult to, not pursue it. And I feel the final the nail was when I spent time with Adilji and Dilip Shankar in Delhi, and spent 3 months kind of training with them, workshopping with them. That's when I actually really fell in love with the craft. And for me, I'm somebody who's how do I put it? I'm somebody who's not out there and who's not very extrovertish, for a lack of a better word. And acting is a means of kind of expressing myself in different ways,
Yeah.
So even if it is a lot of times if there is something that I'm deeply angry about, I'm very quiet about it. But that if anger is channelized in your scenes, you kind of use it in a way. So
Hmm.
that's why acting is so important to me, because it's a means of expressing myself.
Oh,
And I feel that when you asked, you made a statement saying you probably knew what you want in the industry. I didn't at all. So I
okay.
had no clue how to go and how to go about things and what I want. But I've just kind of auditioned for things. If after getting a Mirza, I auditioned for a few other things. I was offered some very mainstream um Nach Gana type of stuff, which I was not very happy about doing, so I didn't do it. So
Hmm.
I feel, if something makes me happy, I do it. If it doesn't, then I'll just pass it on. I have the good fortune of doing it for the love of the craft and not so much for the monetary reasons at this point in life. So
Hmm.
I've been blessed that way.
Hmm.
But it's a process. It's still finding what one wants to do. It keeps changing, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the fact that you said that you weren't quite sure of it, it's quite surprising because the way you come across, the way we've interacted, it seems like you were always determined. And I think that's what I find really fascinating. I think that's what everyone sort of finds fascinating about you as well. I mean, you mentioned about you getting bitten by the acting kakira. I think once you're bitten, even antiseptic creams can't help you. You just have to kind of face it forefront. But I think generally, I think sports biopics as well are becoming increasingly popular now. I think the sports genre itself has really gained momentum in Hindi cinema in particular. What is your view on those? I mean, how would you use your actual experience if you were to portray the biopic or even a sports movie in general?
So I actually was supposed to do a sport biopic right after Mirza, where a very big company production house had, well, not signed me on, but they had kind of had a lot of discussions with me. But the film didn't do well, and unfortunately, it went to another A-list actor.
Oh,
Uh, I guess the commercials and from a producer's perspective, it probably made sense, because uh, the film never came out. That's a different story.
okay.
But I feel, sport biopics, if you have an actor who's willing to dedicate lots of time and effort, like what Farhan did with Milkha, or what Farhan is doing with Tufan, that's
Hmm.
when you make an authentic and a good sport biopic. There have been a bunch of other sport films that have come out, and they've been so shoddy, because I feel the actors are just doing it as
Yeah.
superficially and not really getting into it so much. So
Yeah.
if you are not a cricketer, badminton player, runner, footballer, whatever, shooter, then you very well put in the time, you put in the effort for a good year and given that much time, and
Hmm.
you see the result. So personally, for me, definitely few certain sports would have come easier to me, and I would have loved to be a part of a sport biopic, because that would kind of have my both my passions of sport and acting together. Hopefully soon something works out.
Definitely. But I think it's wonderful to see that you've again cementing your presence on the digital platforms as well. So what do you hope to actually achieve from these exposures and from these experiences?
Right now, actually, I'm really, really overwhelmed by the response that Special Ops has got. And I really didn't think, I mean, I had not given it so much thought, but I didn't think it would become such a big show. So right now, I hope we can, and I feel the success of the show was in its writing, because I feel if you have a well-written show, that's, half your battle won. So I'm hoping that with the second season, it kind of gets people just as excited, if not more. And with Choked also, I think just OTT places give you an opportunity to probably put out content which you probably wouldn't in mainstream theaters. So I think we want to make the most of that.
Mm,
And I don't take myself really too seriously. So as long as people are enjoying the work that I enjoy doing, I'm happy.
mm, mm. And finally, reflecting over, this career of yours, which has been going on for like what, 4 years now, I believe.
Yes.
How satisfied are you generally with the way things have planned and gone out?
I'm actually, there's been a range of emotions, from happiness, disappointment, uh, satisfaction. So there's been a range of emotion with happiness of signing all that I have, and it's just natural. When things don't work, you get disappointed, and then you carry on, and then you're satisfied when something works out. So I feel you have to keep trying. I have constantly tried, and there was an interview I read of Akshay Kumar where he said, काम से काम मिलेगा तो बस काम करते जाओ. So I'm kind of adopting that theory. Is if I'm liking the stuff coming to me, I'm doing it, and I'm hoping that I can kind of build a career where I'm well remembered for doing interesting, different kind of things all along. Instead of doing the one same typical thing again and again, I'm happier to play different characters. So right now, that's the aim.
That's the key. So versatility is the key for you right now.
Yes.
Wonderful. But Saiyami, it is always so wonderful to have this conversation with you, and it's always amazing as well. I remember the first time we spoke as well. It was so lovely, that phone call. I think it was only 8 minutes, but I wish it went on for longer. But I'm really glad that we could finally catch up after all these years. Thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with me.
Thank you so much, Anuj, and I hope you catch my next two shows, the film and the show, and tell me what you think about it.
I definitely will, and hopefully we'll even do more, conversations near the time as well, hopefully.
Yes.
For sure. Lovely. But take good care of yourself. Thanks, Amy.
You too. Be safe. See you.